You know, some families just never seem to worry about money. And it's not because they're somehow smarter than you, and it's certainly not because they work harder than you do. The actual truth is much more fascinating. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to break down the exact mechanics of lasting family wealth. You see, true generational wealth isn't about grinding away your whole life for a paycheck. It's actually about a single decision made generations ago. Someone in a family just decided to act differently, and that one decision compounds silently across decades, eventually building a literal fortress of wealth that protects every single generation that follows. The best part? That exact decision is available to you right now. Today, you're going to learn exactly what it is and exactly how to make it.
Okay, let's dive into this blueprint roadmap. We're going to walk through 5 key areas today: the wealth erosion trap, the foundation of identity and assets, how to leverage debt and taxes, protection and education, and finally, the 3-generation timeline. Think of this like architectural pillars. They absolutely must be built in this exact order if you want the structure to stand the test of time.
All right, starting off with Section 1, the wealth erosion trap.
Before we can start building, we have to diagnose the core problem here, because there's a very specific reason most families fail to build lasting wealth. And I promise you, it is not bad luck and it's not a sudden market crash. It is a devastating lack of knowledge. Look at this number, 70%. 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth entirely by the 2nd generation. Think about that. Someone works their absolute tail off for 40 years, builds a huge pile of wealth, passes it on, and then within just a few short years, it's completely gone. This cycle just painfully restarts from zero.
But honestly, it gets even worse. By the 3rd generation, 90% of families have lost it all. We always talk about leaving a lasting legacy, but the harsh reality is that the vast majority of family wealth just evaporates. So why does this happen? Well, it's because nobody bothered to teach that next generation how the wealth was actually built in the first place, or how to protect it once they got their hands on it. Now, the families that actually maintain their wealth across centuries, they do one thing completely differently to stop this painful loop. It's this: knowledge first, assets second. It's an incredibly profound shift. Look, handing over a massive pile of wealth without any financial education, it's basically like passing down a heavy locked vault to your kids, but completely forgetting to give them the combination. The most successful families effectively transfer the vault's combination way before they ever hand over the vault itself. They teach the financial principles for years. Getting that sequence right changes absolutely everything.
Which brings us to Section 2, Foundation, Identity, and Assets.
This is honestly the hardest phase for Generation 1, mainly because it requires a massive mindset shift before a single dollar is ever invested. Generational wealth starts in the mind, and this brilliantly illustrates the difference. We have to contrast the limited mindset of a saver against the expansive mindset of a builder. Savers identifies people who work for money, right? And they're slowly losing their purchasing power to inflation. But builders? Builders identify as people who build systems that generate money. Every financial decision you make flows directly from your identity. So this isn't just fluffy motivation. This is hardcore strategy. Savers save, sure, but builders create generational wealth.
So what exactly are these builders building? Well, generational wealth isn't built from a savings jar just sitting there doing nothing. It is built by acquiring income-producing assets, things like real estate, dividend stocks, index funds, business equity, and intellectual property. Think about it. The Rockefellers didn't save their way to wealth. They owned oil infrastructure. The Waltons didn't just save their paychecks. They owned vast retail systems. Now, you don't need to build a massive global empire to succeed here. You just need to build a portfolio of these exact types of assets that generates more income than you spend. Then, that portfolio can be passed down to your kids completely intact, stone by stone. That's how you build a foundation.
Moving right along to Section 3, leverage, debt, and taxes.
Let's dive into the accelerators. For most folks, the words debt and taxes cause instant panic. But generational wealth builders neutralize that fear by reframing debt as a professional construction tool. They draw a very clear line between good debt and bad debt. Good debt acts exactly like a massive construction crane, lifting heavy, income-producing assets into place, letting you build something much, much larger than you ever could with just cash. Bad debt, on the other hand, finances consumption. We're talking cars, expensive vacations, lifestyle upgrades. Bad debt destroys your wealth because those items drop in value and generate zero return. But that debt, yeah, that sticks around. The golden rule here is never use debt to fund your lifestyle.
The next big accelerator is minimizing your taxes legally. Our 70,000-page tax code is essentially just a rulebook, and it's actually the greatest wealth transfer tool on the planet if you know how to read it.
Maximizing specific legal shelters, things like your 401k, Roth IRA, HSA, and 529 plans, allows your dollars to grow completely protected from taxes. Every single dollar you put inside these accounts is shielded, which means your wealth compounds so much faster.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the wealthy use a very specific strategy called the stepped-up basis. Let me give you a quick little scenario here. Imagine you buy an asset for $50,000. Over a few decades, it grows to $500,000. Now, if you sell it while you're alive, you're going to pay taxes on that $450,000 of gain. Ouch, right? But if you pass that asset to your heirs when you pass away, their cost basis steps up or resets to that current $500,000 value, meaning if they turn around and sell it the very next day, they pay absolutely zero tax on that massive growth. It legally wipes out decades of tax liability for the next generation. It's a total game changer.
Okay, Section 4, Protection and Education.
Listen, building all this incredible wealth without protecting it is just reckless. It's the equivalent of building a beautifully designed multi-million-dollar mansion and then just forgetting to put a roof on it. The very first unexpected storm is going to destroy everything inside overnight. So the first layer of your financial roof is basic asset protection, like an umbrella liability policy. For as little as $200 a year, you can secure $1 million in coverage. Without this super inexpensive shield, one random unexpected lawsuit could instantly wipe out everything you've spent a lifetime building. It is a tiny, tiny annual cost compared to the legacy it protects.
The next crucial layer of that roof is your estate planning documents. You need a will, a trust, a power of attorney, and a healthcare directive. By setting these up sequentially, especially utilizing a family trust, your assets will pass smoothly outside of the public probate courts. That means no public record of what you own and no frustrating court delays for your grieving family. Because without these documents in place, a judge decides who gets the assets you built, and they often end up redistributed randomly to places you never intended.
And that brings us to the pillar that makes the whole shebang permanent: transferring the knowledge. We really have to contrast harmful financial secrecy, which delays and destroys a legacy, with the absolute power of family meetings, which builds it. The classic Rockefeller strategy involves holding annual family financial meetings. They review their investments together, they discuss their goals, and they make big decisions as a unified front. Financial education has to become a permanent family culture, rather than some weird taboo subject nobody talks about at the dinner table.
Let's move to and see how this builds over the timeline in Section 5, the 3-generation timeline.
This is where we zoom out and connect the very real sacrifices you are making today to the ultimate prosperity of your grandchildren decades from now. I want you to imagine this soaring trajectory. Generation 1, that's you, right now. You're down in the dirt laying that difficult foundation. The sacrifice is very real, but because you step up and do that, Generation 2, your kids, they inherit not just money, but systems. They get to start from a much higher ceiling because their starting line is your finish line. And then Generation 3, your grandchildren, they inherit a fully functioning fortress of wealth. Multiple income streams, optimized tax structures, and deep financial knowledge permanently embedded in their DNA.
Which leaves us with this final, absolutely crucial question to wrap up our explainer today. What decision will Generation 1 make today? Every single financial decision you make right now is either building that multi-generational legacy or it's actively preventing it. Look, you do not need to be wealthy to start, but you absolutely must start in order to create wealth for everyone who comes after you. You hold the power to be Generation 1. The only question is, what are you going to decide to do next?